everyone, thanks for all your feedback. Today's video is going to be on how to bake bread. There are 4 ingredients that you'll need. First one is bread flour, salt, yeast, and water. The recipe that I'm doing today calls for 8 cups of bread flour, 1.5 tablespoons of salt, 1.5 tablespoons of yeast, and 4 cups of water. So I've put all the ingredients into the KitchenAid. I'm going to lower it down. You'll also notice that we're using the dough hook attachment. Lower it down, lock it. I've run the KitchenAid for a few minutes. Here you can take a look at the consistency of the dough. I'm going to lower it down, lock it, and run it for a little bit longer. I have placed the dough into a proofing bin. I'm going to put a cover on it, let it sit and rise for 4 hours. If you don't have a proofing bin, you can use a large bowl and cover it with a kitchen towel. It's been 4 hours. The dough has risen. It started to sink a little bit. I'm going to sift some flour on top, and I'm going to make 2 loaves from this 1 bin of dough. So this is how I divide the dough in half. I'm going to scoop out half of this dough, and I'm going to form it into a loaf. It's pretty wet, so I'm going to liberally apply some bread flour so I can scoop this out. If the dough is sticking to your hand, if it's really, really wet, put some flour on your hands. This is pretty wet. All right, so what I'm going to do, since it's still a little wet, is I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of flour on here. I'm going to take this mound of dough, and I'm going to imagine there's a circle right here, and I want this circle to spread, and then I want the edges to curve under. So imagine there's a circle right here, and I want it to spread. As it's spreading, I want to curve these edges under. This is how I'm going to form this into a loaf. You don't want to use too much flour here, just enough so that it's not sticking to your hands. So I'm rotating it a little bit as I'm curving the edges under. On the bottom, what you'll end up doing, you can take this pinch, twist, and then I'm going to let it sit over here on this baking sheet for a couple of minutes. I've sprinkled it with cornmeal so that the dough does not stick to the baking sheet. So I've preheated my oven to 500 degrees. In the oven, I have a pizza stone that's been in there the entire time the oven has been heating up to 500 degrees. I also have a sheet with lava rocks. When it's time to put the dough onto the hot pizza stones, I'm also going to throw in 1 cup of hot water onto those lava rocks. What happens is, because of the high amount of surface area on the lava rocks, it'll slowly release that steam. That steam is going to help create a really nice hearty crust. Before I put the dough into the oven, I'm going to score it or make small marks on the top. I'm just using a regular knife. This is to increase the surface area a little to allow the dough to continue rising. All right, so now I'm going to put the dough into the oven. Now I'm going to pour hot water onto this tray of lava. Close it up. So I've put the dough into the oven. I am now going to lower the temperature from 500 to 475. And I'm going to keep the bread in the oven for 30 to 35 minutes. So 35 minutes have passed, and it is time to take the bread out of the oven. Look at that. looks fantastic, smells great. Once the bread comes out of the oven, you want to let it cool to room temperature for about 1.5 to 2 hours. During this time, the interior of the bread is still baking, so you want to be patient and not cut into it too soon.